couple more minutes before we get started so that anybody running a little bit late doesn't miss anything for us. So just bear with us here a second and we'll get started in a couple minutes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Gave a couple extra minutes here. We might have a few more people trickle in, but that's okay. So first, thanks to everybody for joining us today for our webinar on managing and retaining new patients for sustained practice success. My name's Kelly Dembesser, kind of like December, but a little bit different. I've probably worked with a few of you before. I have been over here at iMatrix for 3 years and over 5 years in the marketing industry. So looking forward to chatting with everybody today. Typically, as you guys know, kind of our focus for online marketing is more on bringing in new patients. However, we do realize that when we bring in an influx of new patients, it can be a little bit overwhelming for the office and the front desk staff. So I want to talk about becoming adequately prepared for that rush. Attracting, obviously, new patients is only half the battle, and so when you bring in new patients, you do have to be prepared for that increasingly busy schedule at your clinic. We know that you spend a lot of time and money and effort on bringing in new patients, so it's in everyone's best interest to retain them as returning patients for years and years and years. So we're going to cover some of the best ways to prepare your practice for that influx, how to turn them from one-time visitors into lifelong patients. So here's kind of the bullet points of the topics that we're going to focus in on: how to streamline your new patient process so that your new patients and your front office staff are happy, both very, very key, and what it takes to prepare your practice for that influx. Some industry-specific tools that can help guarantee high patient satisfaction. We're going to talk a little bit about a positive online reputation and some other outreach tools that you can use to foster continued patient loyalty and keep your patients coming back time and time again. All right, so establishing a practice flow. In order to better serve patients and allow for smooth growth in your practice, you and your staff as a whole need to be prepared. Everyone needs to be on the same page. It's probably the most important component. We know that a full appointment book brings a lot of positives to a practice, but handling that can be really stressful and is a difficult transition sometimes. And at the end of the day, we obviously want the focus to be that while your number of patients may be increasing, your quality of care should not be decreasing. So any time-saving measures that we can implement both in the exam room and the front office are going to be key for this. So the first thing you're going to want to do is really work with your staff to establish systems that can be put into place that guarantee both your patients and your staff are happy with this new big change. This can involve a variety of things, from addressing how long patients spend at the front desk, how long they spend with the doctor, and even how long it takes for them to check out and maybe book a follow-up appointment or their next appointment with you guys. So one of the first things, and I know we talk a lot about this over here because we're very digital, is online forms. Most practices recommend that you arrive a little bit early so that you have time to fill out an online form before their first appointment, get all that intake paperwork taken care of. Unfortunately, we know that sometimes that can take a little bit longer than planned. People run behind, and this can really kind of create a snowball effect where one patient's appointment bleeds into another, and then it disrupts the schedule for the whole entire day. And first impressions are key here, so any type of lateness that we can avoid is huge. One of the easiest ways to combat this problem is by using online forms. That way, when your client calls in, you can let them know, hey, you can head to our website. There's a link. You can fill out the online form before you come in, and that way they can take care of that on their time before they come in to see you, and not your time while they're in the office. a lot of the online forms, and sort of before I move on, depends on your practice management software capabilities too. And this is a little bit of information that we have over here with the clients that we work with, but contacting your practice management software and figuring out if they do have the capability to do full online forms is huge and can definitely streamline that check-in process for you. So moving kind of on to the staff side and how to prepare your staff fully for that influx of new patients. Getting everybody on the same page and communication is probably the most important thing here. Being an efficient practice is truly a full team effort. So once you've kind of established your practice flow and figured out where you maybe need a little bit of help at check-in or check-out, you'll need to train everyone and prepare the staff. It's really important that every member of your practice understands the ins and outs of the implemented systems and sees kind of the value in shortening that process or streamlining those processes. And there's a couple things you can do here to encourage your staff to be, kind of excited about the change, even though it means busier days and maybe a little more stress. But you can always use incentives, such as offering bonuses when maybe, a certain percentage of the month's schedules are on time or X number of patients report having positive experiences. When you ensure that, your staff is all working towards the same goals and of offering the highest quality care and growing the practice, you really ensure a high patient satisfaction rate, as well as a consistent flow of incoming practice revenue. So one of the best things and advice that I give a lot of my clients in this is creating a new patient coordinator. Depending on the size of your clinic, you can have 1 or 2 new patient coordinators. But what this does is it really helps with, not having too many hands in the pot, basically. When one staff member handles, the initial paperwork, and then another handles insurance, and another handles schedules and new patient appointments, everyone kind of can feel overwhelmed with that process. Most people want to work with 1 or 2 people. They want a familiar face and name, someone to remember the little details about them. And when you kind of designate one person to handle this, it really creates a positive first impression for a new client. And they don't feel overwhelmed by dealing with a different person for each step of this process. In addition to kind of creating that positive first impression and experience, it really limits the number of hands that patient information passes through, and also can in turn limit the number of things that are likely to fall through the cracks in that process. All right, so you've got all these new things in place, and high patient satisfaction is going to be the next huge focus for you. You really want to make sure that all of your patients feel really good about their experience with you. And one of the simplest ways to figure out how that experience was is to simply ask what the patient's experience was at your practice. One of the ways we recommend doing this is by sending a patient satisfaction survey. You want to ask them about their most recent visit to your practice, whether or not they've returned since, and why they made that decision. Definitely not every patient will respond, but when you give them the option to provide you with, their honest, anonymous opinion, many people will. They want to tell you how it was. People want to vent if they didn't have a great experience, and if they did have a great experience, they feel good about sharing it with you. Another way you can promote positive online reputation is by asking your clients for feedback and establishing those third-party kind of review business pages online. The 3 biggest and most trusted that I highly recommend everyone focus in on are Yelp, Google+, and Facebook. They have the biggest value as far as marketing and ranking, as well as they're the most viewed review sites. They are important for various reasons. Not only is it good for getting a pulse on how your patients feel about you, but it also drives a new business. More and more we are looking to those review sites to help us decide whether or not we're going to go in and do business with anyone. And If your practice does receive consistently, negative feedback, I get a lot of concerns about this when you start asking for feedback and reviews about a certain service you offer or a staff member. There's usually some truth in it, even if not all truth. But you can really use these comments and this feedback to your advantage. Any of the problems or suggestions, you want to see the true value in which your patients are give you. Not everyone will tell you directly what they think, what you can improve on, but patient surveys and online reviews can offer a wealth of information that you and your staff can act upon to improve the overall experience at your clinic. When you recognize and implement some of those suggestions, it really demonstrates that you care about the thoughts and opinions of your patients and find it important that their experience is satisfactory at your clinic. And when they feel that way, they are much, much more likely to continue returning. One of the other biggest things I get when you start asking for these reviews is, how do you respond? Do you respond? And the answer is yes. You definitely always want to respond. Once your patients have taken the time to complete a satisfaction survey or leave an online review for your clinic, you want to return kind of that favor of them giving you their time by acknowledging and responding to their comments. Whether it's positive or negative, responding to it is almost as important as the review itself. If you are given a suggestion and you did decide to take someone's advice via a review or a patient survey, tell them. People love to hear that the businesses that they work with and the places that they go to care about their input and have gone out of their way to improve their experience. More importantly, I would say one of my biggest things is if someone does post something negative, one of the most important things you can do is respond to it, and you kind of want to keep it pretty simple. Give them an apology. We're so sorry that your experience wasn't, 100% positive. We really, we work hard to deliver the best experience possible. Please reach out to our staff so that we can work with you to, figure out what went wrong here. And that's really all you want to say. My number one advice is never engage in a debate online, no matter how much someone kind of pushes you. Keep it short and sweet and encourage them to contact you directly via phone so that you guys can work it out, privately. But just by kind of working through this response and acknowledging these reviews and things like that, it really not only brings in new clients, but it guarantees that your clients feel cared about and they are much, much more likely to continue to return to you. The follow-through for these is when you respond, to any patient that reviews you, make sure that you let them know they appreciate it. You're working on implementing a new procedure. One of the most important things about this is just make sure you're honest. If you aren't seriously going to consider implementing a suggestion, don't say that you are. People can see through a lot of that, and if you only respond to a few of them saying that you're going to seriously consider implementing that or saying, oh, we did implement that, then people know that you're taking these seriously and that you aren't, just blowing smoke, basically. When you do blow smoke, patients end up being frustrated with false promises and, rather than being impressed by your responding, are not at all impressed and tend to spread the word about your practice, but not necessarily in the way we would hope. It's usually not in a great way. All right, so other kind of keys in patient loyalty and retention are keeping in touch. So there's a lot of tools out there that you can use to keep in touch with your patients outside of your office. And it goes far beyond just like appointment reminder cards. So blogs, newsletters, and other outreach tools can establish you as a resource for your patients. By using these tools, you can keep your patients informed, involved, and more invested in their experience with your practice. You can also provide them with practice information, any changes, new staff members, local happenings or events that you're participating in, even general wellness tips. What it really does is establish that you're more than just a one-time service provider for them. It's developing and nurturing that relationship. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with the tools in the back end of your website. We have a lot of them, so I recommend looking into that if you haven't. And then in these communications, one of the big keys is keeping it personal. You know, take the time to remind your patients that they're important. It obviously takes a lot of time to reach out to each patient individually, but in the long term, it can be really worthy. Patients who feel cared about, you know, remember the reason that they chose your business to begin with, and it will keep them coming back in the future. And it doesn't have to be anything super lengthy. It can be just as simple as responding to a comment on a Facebook page, or sending, you know, cards to your patients around the holidays. Even, you know, the littlest things can go a long way here, and I think that's really key, is don't get overwhelmed with this communication. Keep it simple, but it can take you a long way. I'm already out. Sorry, guys, I feel like I must have gone through most of that pretty quickly, but there's a couple things in conclusion here for us, and then we'll get to some questions. You know, we covered a lot of different ways that you can kind of simplify that intake process and foster loyalty at your clinic, but most importantly, you know, you want to remember that personal touches and streamlined systems are really simple and effective ways to turn, you know, new patients into lifelong patients. Once you have established a system that makes every new patient feel important, is, you know, the last, when you have a new patient that feels important, is the patients that have been coming to you for years. You know, it's guaranteed to grow your practice and attract new patients over time. I definitely would say that one of the most important factors that we've talked about today is reviews and your online reputation, and kind of gathering that client survey data. People are more and more are using those sites, you know, to make decisions about where they're going to go. So the more you can encourage people to give you feedback and improve everyone's experience, you know, the better for you both in retaining and bringing in new patients. We do have a service over here that's designed to specifically help streamline that process for you in collecting patient survey data and generating online reviews and monitoring. You know, any time someone does review or mention you online, it's pretty cool. It's called Reputation Builder over here. If you are interested in even just learning more about the process or our service, I would recommend reaching out to your sales rep or one of our account managers. They can kind of help answer any questions that you might have on that. And just with everything else too, if anything seems overwhelming, definitely don't hesitate to contact us over here. That's what we're here for. We're here to help kind of sort through all this stuff with you guys. I'm going to take a look over at the questions here. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to put them into the little chat. Should be on the screen for you. And I'll answer a couple here before we close up today. So I'm going to take a look at that. Okay, so not too many questions yet. I'll give you guys another second to kind of find the question box and ask me a couple. Charles did ask if this was going to be recorded and available. It will be. You can directly request the link from our support team. I'll give you the phone number here in just a moment so that you guys can call in and get the recorded link. And then it looks like, okay. So the support number for you guys, it's 1-800-462-8749. And it'll give you a nice little menu there to get to our support team. And then just let them know you want, you know, the recorded version of the webinar from today. Let them know the topic and they'll help you out. And then James has a quick question for us about editing an admission form to fit your practice. Yes, absolutely. you want to gather only the information that's important to you. I think that's one of the things that gets overlooked a lot now too, is that less is really more. If it's not pertinent information that you need, you want to kind of trim it down to as little as possible. If you're talking specifically about, your intake form on the website, you can trim that down in a PDF document, have them fill it out and bring it in. Or if you have an online form with your practice management software company, they can usually customize those as well. And then one more question, tools in the back end of the site that help drive clients to your website. So I would say the biggest and most important tool in the back end of the website that can help you draw in new clients is the blog tool. Blogging about, industry relevant information, wellness tips, anything that's new service-wise to the clinic, or, just within your, area of expertise. If you blog about it, it's going to help you become a credible resource online for that, and that's going to help you with your rankings. It'll help drive in new clients. So that's from a marketing perspective. As far as on the site that will help drive, current or maybe old clients you haven't seen in a while, in the back end of the website, there's the iCard tool and the newsletter tool, and I think those are the ones that you primarily use to communicate with your current client base, that can kind of help remind them that you're still there, or that they need to maybe, come in for something new. And it looks like you guys are taking it pretty easy on me here. I don't see too many other questions. You're welcome. It's been really my pleasure chatting with you guys today. I hope that everybody learned at least a little something from this. And if you do have any additional questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to our support team or your account manager. We really truly are here to help guide you through all this stuff, and we have tons of tools available to you, that aren't necessarily services that you can just use on the back end. And if you're not aware of them, don't be shy. We want you to know about them and learn about how to use them so that the website and any of these tools work, for you. And I think that's about it. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. And until next time, have a great rest of your week.